Yeah, we are live now.
Hi guys, really nice to meet you. My name is Dhruti Kedlaya and I got AIR 82 in CLAT 2024, and today I'll be conducting a logical reasoning session. Um, if possible, you guys could say hi or hello or anything so we can just start off by being a little interactive. Where can I see your comments?
Can you see the comments on the right side?
Uh, I can't see comments. It just says private chat.
There's no other
Comments.
option of seeing the comments or the
Oh yeah, I can see. Um,
yeah.
Yeah, okay, I can see it. Hello, guys. So I'll be starting off now. And if you guys have any doubts, you can always let me know, yeah? Guys, can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, done. Okay, so before I start the whole session, I'll just set up a few ground rules for this session so we can go ahead as such. Please feel free to ask doubts at any point in time using the chat option as provided. Since we are extremely close to CLAT 2025, clearing your doubts at this point, especially, is extremely, extremely pivotal. So ask any doubts that come to your mind. And at the end, again, I'll be having like a question answer session where you can ask me more doubts. So next, when answering any of the questions in the passage that I'll be sharing on the screen, please make sure that you have a reason for whatever you're going to be answering. Again, since we're so close to CLAT 2025, we really cannot see tukka or like fluke answers to be acceptable at this point. Also, another request from my side, when I ask you guys, like after a passage or so, when I ask you guys answers to a specific question, I would appreciate if you put that in the chat so it can be a little interactive and I can ask you guys for reasons for your answers. And the point number three, we will be doing about 3 to 4 passages to implement the methods that I'll be providing. After which, we'll move on to the CR section of CLAT 2024, which I think have seen a lot of doubts or have been confusing for a lot of you guys. So before we start off with this session, let's first understand the question types that fall under logical reasoning. I'm sure that at this point you guys would have heard this n number of times, but I just feel it's important to restate it once before we start. I'll not take more than 2 minutes, and we'll just do a recap very quickly. First one is assumption. So, in the assumption, the author does not explicitly state if it's untrue. If does not explicitly state the particular assumption. If it is untrue, the whole author's argument will fall down. Okay, let us do a small exercise before I go ahead. If I want to tell you something, imagine I want when I'm communicating to you guys right now, what is an assumption that I would hold right now while communicating to you guys in the session? It can be any assumption. I'll start. Like maybe one of the assumptions that you guys could have is that I can hear you. That's one of the that you guys can hear me. That is one of the assumptions that I would have, right? That you can hear me. Any other assumptions you guys think that I might have? Exactly. So, honey, that's a really good assumption that you guys are understanding, right? That's another really good assumption. Any other ones that you guys can think of? Okay, I think we'll move forward then. Another assumption that when I was that you're paying attention. Yeah, true. Another assumption that you guys have clearly missed out on is that you guys understand English, right? That is the most basic assumption that would be something that we would follow before I start, right? Next, inference. So, inference is something that must be true based on the passage. It's not something that could be true or should be true. We don't look at it as something that it is a very black and white area, that it's something that must be true based on the passage. It's not something that we want to be true. Okay. Next is strengthening and weakening. Look for options that support or challenge the author's argument, not just restate it. Though at points, sometimes I know that options are there that just restate the passage. While these might be enticing in case there are not any other like viable options. I would generally prefer if you guys go for options that are not just restating what the author has already said in the passage, but something that he contributes to more significantly. Like, for example, if I say that I like the color blue, and if I say which of this would rather strengthen it, right? I like the color blue because I like the color blue because when I was a young child, I've seen the color blue all around me, and since then I have a nostalgic connect to it. Or if I just say I like the color blue because I like the color blue, right? The part that strengthens it more is not something that's just restating what I've already said, but something that adds on to it or provides something more concrete to it or strengthens it, right? Now, main argument and conclusion. I'm sure there must be doubts between what is the difference between a main argument and a conclusion. So, a main argument must cover most of the points mentioned in the passage, while the conclusion is what the author concludes at the end of the passage. Conclusion is something that is broader than what is just given in the passage simply, while as a main argument is something that kind of runs down the points that are present in the passage. If anybody has a doubt between main argument and conclusion, you can put it down now so that I can mention it a bit more clearly. Okay, I'll look at the doubts a little later. Also, another thing with conclusion is that it's usually a little bit intuitive. So when we look at a passage, when we look at the conclusion, it's something that points to a broader theme than what is just given in the passage. Like, we need to read between the lines for the conclusion, whereas the main argument is just a rundown of the points that are given in it. Okay. Now moving forward, I these are some of the points that I used to use very frequently while I was solving passages when last year. So these are just 6 points that it's very easy to remember, and when you are especially doing the process of elimination, which I hope that you all are aware of, which is basically when you look at the options in a given there are 4 options, right? So when you look at these 4 options, the idea is not to immediately reach the right answer, but to instead eliminate the wrong answers and then reach the right answer. First one in this process of elimination is do not choose the extreme option. Some examples of extreme options will contain words like only, always, etc. So do not choose an option which has the words only, always, and such extreme words. Next, do not choose an option that provides information not given in the passage, except obviously in the case of inferences. If something is given that is not in the passage directly, we know that it is not something that the author wants us to know. Next, do not choose the answer that is untrue. This is evidently obvious. Choosing an answer that is untrue cannot be the right answer. Next, do not choose an answer that is too vague. Every answer has a reason. We must remember that every paper has been set by another human. So, another human would not set an answer to be extremely vague, because at the end of the day, when they release the answer key, they need to have a reason for why that answer is the correct answer. So, any answer that is too vague will never be the correct answer. So, never choose an answer that is too vague. Instead, choose an answer that has a solid reason behind it. Next, do not assume anything based on personal knowledge. If a particular passage says that water is red color, when we read the passage, we assume at from that point onwards that water is red color. We do not bring our own personal knowledge into this particular passage, but instead only take the facts that are given in the passage to, solve the particular passage. And again, in strengthening, as I've stated before, do not go for options which plainly restate the passage. Um, your stream chat has a delay. Can you guys hear me well? Not no matter what, but I think that it's generally not a good practice to go for options that are just restating the passage, because as I said before, when you restate something, it doesn't really add value to the particular passage. Um, what if they ask something general, vaguely related to the passage? Um, I'll be solving a passage now, and I think that is a kind of question that you're referring to. So when we're solving the passage, you're just lagging a little bit. Can you hear me clearly though? Is it my internet? You can hear me clearly, right? If you can say yes or no, that would be really helpful for me to adjust my internet accordingly. Suhani or anybody else? You can hear me. Okay, that's enough. So, anyways, we'll be doing like passages now, so that won't really be a big issue. Again, just one last time, when I'm doing passages, I would really appreciate it if you guys can put down the answers in like the comment section. I promise I'll give you guys enough time, and I won't be rushing you, because this is not something that we're doing time based here, but more to understand the concepts. So if you guys can put down like the answers in the comment section, I would really appreciate it. So we'll be starting off with like 2 3 passages that are not from CLAT 2024. So just we can get an idea of how to implement the methods, and then we'll move on to the CLAT 2024 passages, if that's okay. Yeah. Okay. So we can start off here. Okay. Guys, can you see the passage that I'm presenting? You can see it, right? Could you zoom in? Yeah, I will zoom in. Okay, this is too much. Okay. Is it clear now? It's clear now, right? Okay. So we'll go slowly and bit by bit. We'll read every part of the passage and see how it contributes to the whole thing. Yeah. Okay. India today is a fascinating mix. The economy is booming. Amazingly, after 2 decades of rapid growth, performance that started in the 1980s and that continued after a brief interruption in 1991. After the economic reforms through the 1990s, has accelerated again in the last few years, at least prior to the onset of the global crisis in 2008. India's democracy, by any measure, continues to astound, as despite all kinds of pressures, free and fair elections are held in control of the government changes hands regularly. Unlike all its neighbors, no one can argue that India is a failing or failed state. The government of India and its personnel at the top levels of the elite institutions in India are impressive indeed. The Indian Supreme Court, the Indian Institutes of Technology, the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, India's nuclear program, to name a few, are all world class institutions. The IAS is full of officers who pass an entrance examination and selection process that makes getting into Harvard look like a walk in the park. As a personal example, we can see here that's an anecdote. Having lived and worked in India recently for the World Bank, my impression was that the World Bank, which tries to recruit staff of high quality with international expertise, was by and large matched at nearly every level by their counterparts at the corresponding levels in the government. The brains of the Indian state can formulate excellent policies and programs in nearly every domain. The head is so strong it can even remain in teetering control of the mountain of official paperwork the maintenance of the appearance and the function of those program it has designed requires. So this whole passage, we can see that mainly surrounds around the idea that India is a really good country. It has, you know, the development seen by its elite institutions is really good. Um, and personally, also, he says that while I was working in the World Bank, I saw that uh, their level of expertise is unmatched, etc., etc. So, in short, when we read this passage, what we can see here is that basically this passage talks about how India has seen good development, right? We can say that, in short, if somebody asked me what is this passage, we could say that India is good, right? India is doing a good job. Yes, but yeah, exactly. So now we see here, and yet in passages. extremely important when you see words like and yet or but or however. It means that the author is straying away from the majority view and going into his or her own view of the subject. To say things like however, but, and yet, extremely important words to annotate, circle, underline. Another important thing in logical reasoning, please make sure to use all resources at your disposal, like annotating. Extremely important because we do not have time in this paper to reread every section again and again. Okay, moving forward. And yet, capability of the Indian state to implement programs and policies is weak, and in many domains it is obvious it is not improving. So what the author is saying here, which becomes an extremely important part of this passage, is that the Indian state is able to create programs but is not able to implement the programs. Okay, and here in police, tax collection, education, etc., etc. Here we see an example or background information to his larger argument about how the elite is the only one who's able to create the programs, but the lower levels of the government are not able to implement it. Here we can see that it's an example or a background supporting for the larger argument. As this is true for even relatively routine services, how does one reconcile the contradictions of a booming economy and democracy with world class elite institutions and yet chaotic conditions and service provision of even the most rudimentary types? I argue that India today is a flailing state, extremely important. When the author says things like I argue, it becomes extremely important because they are obviously going to be putting forward their real view. A nation state in which the head, that is the elite institutions, level remains sound and functional, but that the head is no longer reliably connected via nerves and sinews to its own limbs. Here we can reasonably assume that the own limbs refer to the lower levels of government. Okay? In many parts, here in many sectors, blah blah blah, here again refers to background information. As we saw earlier here in the police example, here again, it suffers as background information. It cannot be the main argument. Finally, the author will go on to at least the apparent contrast with China could not be more striking. In China, one worries that due to the lack of the processes of democratic representation at the head of the state, while capable, is beyond the control of the citizens. Yet, at the same time, one reads of local government officials being executed for corruption. Clearly, the head has a strong interest in retaining control of the administrative apparatus of implementation. Here we see that again he refers back to the point about how there must be a control and there must be a good implementation of the policies that have been devised by the elite. The Chinese state, while lacking all the traditional apparatus of electoral democracy, has nevertheless produced an effective state with strong capability for implementation at the ground level. Okay, so just to recap this whole passage, we first see that we talk about how India is good, then we talk about what are the drawbacks, and how though the elite is a very good in a very good space to create these policies, the lower levels of government are not in the same good space to implement these policies. So we see that there is a sort of disconnect between the elite and the lower levels of government. And then finally he contrasts between China and India. So now, if I had to ask you to just tell me in one sentence, in very simple English, what the author wants to say, or what would be the main argument of this paragraph, what would you think the main argument here would be? The presence of India cannot implement. Right. Or in another way, we can. I like what Suhani has put. So to rephrase it, we can say something like the elite. There is a disconnect between the rules set by the elite and the implementation done by the lower levels of government. If you guys agree with this, you can like say yes or yeah or agree in the comment section. Basically what the main idea is that there's a disconnect between the rules created by the elite and implemented by the lower levels of government. If you agree, you can say yeah. Yeah, very good. The nerd who studies, that's a really good way to put it forward. That's nice. Okay. So we'll now move forward to solving the questions in the passage. I'll give you guys about 1 to 1.5 minutes to read the question and put down an answer in the comment section, and then we can understand why the answer is correct. Okay. Uh, what can be inferred about the author? The author has personal experience working with the Indian state. The author is writing on basis of an online correspondence with state officials. The author is an academic theorizing about the Indian state. The author is an official of the Indian government's bureaucracy. Okay. Yeah, sure, Yansh. That's a good one. I like that one. Um, okay. So the nerd who studies says any other different options. Gauravi, very good. A. Okay, done. You all are right. The answer is in fact A. Now, a point which might be confusing here is the author is an official of the Indian government's bureaucracy, which is not true at all. But because here we see that as a personal example, having lived and worked in India recently for the World Bank, we see that he's not really an official of the Indian state, but he has personal experience. Very good, guys. Very good. Okay, moving forward. Which of the following weakens the author's argument? Weakens, as in it is something that is contradictory to what the author has stated. Even if you're not sure, guys, please put down an answer. Also, guys, an important point to remember here is that um, don't look for answers that are outside the scope of the passage. If it's something that he hasn't stated or it's something like not true at all, then it, can't be the answer. CAC. Okay, choose one. C or A. Okay, done. Okay, let's move forward. The answer here is actually C. Okay, now, and I'll explain to you why. Okay, which question number is this? 85. Okay, question number A. Here, the option states that the reason India's head has such world class capabilities is because of a handsome remunerative structure, but nobody really talks about their salary, right, in the passage. Like, the more important argument here is that they have access to better education, and that way they're able to put forward a better head. But nobody really talks about their handsome remunerative structure. They might really talk about their social benefits, but nobody's really talking about their handsome remunerative structure. So this cannot be the right option, right? Now, this one cannot be the right option, obviously, because it directly supports it. And D again cannot be the right option because it directly supports it. Now, here, why is C the right option? Okay. the author has indirectly built a connection. Okay, there was a line in the passage which states that in China, one worries that due to the lack of processes of democratic representation, the head of the state, while capable, is beyond the control of the citizen. Yet at the same time, one reads of local government being executed for corruption. Clearly, the head has a strong interest in retaining control of the administrative apparatus of implementation. Here, we see that the head has a strong desire to retain control of administrative apparatus. Nobody here is talking about their self interests and motives, right? It's very clear here that the reason why they have such a strict process is to retain their control over state machinery, not to perpetuate their self-interested motives. So here it would weaken because it goes directly against what the author has stated. Okay. Now the reason why A can't be the right option is because it's not even given in the passage. Can we see the difference? Why one is true and one is not? Why one would be the right option, one A, why C is the right option and A is not? If you guys have understood, you can let me know yes or yeah. Or if you need me to repeat it, please do let me know because I can do it in like short. Okay. So just to one last time to recap, A is not true because it's something that's completely outside the passage, and something that's outside the passage cannot be strengthened or weakened. Whereas C is a element that is inside the passage and can be directly weakened because they're stating something that is false. Okay. What role does the comparison with China play in the context of the passage? B. Okay, Rashi B. Suhani B. What about Shauryan, Gauri? Okay, very good. Nerd who studies. You guys can all answer. B, B. Any other answers? Something different? Some other option? B. Okay. We'll move forward now. The answer is, as you guys have provided, it is definitely B, to contrast the differing capabilities of the government with respect to the lower tiers of administration. That's the perfect answer. Because our whole passage here talks about how the lower tiers of administration are not able to fulfill their capabilities to the required, level. And we see here A cannot be the option because nobody is even talking about differing between a democracy and an authoritarian. That's not even the point of discussion here. Point C cannot be the right option because nobody's talking about the common citizen. And point D cannot be the option because it's not about investigating, but it's more about contrasting. So B would definitely be the right option. And the reason why I chose actually was this word contrast. So why would the author try to bring forward a point of China without wanting to contrast its ideals or its effect? So this word contrast is what stood out to me and actually made me think that this was the right answer. Okay, done. So last one. I would like you guys to do this in like 10 seconds because this is the easiest answer. What is the author's tone in the passage? Okay, I'll be counting down to 10, and if you can like answer it a little fast. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10. D for Dhaka. Okay, D. Analytical, yes, D. Perfect, guys. D. Perfect. Yeah, it's very simple. It cannot be curious because it's clearly like it's not something that he's curious about, but he's telling us the facts. It cannot be narrative because he's not narrating a story to us. It cannot be descriptive because he's not really describing anything, but rather he's analyzing something. So the answer is definitely analytical. Really good job, guys. Really good job. Okay. Are you okay with moving forward? forward to the next passage. Yeah, good one, Shauryan. But yeah, for a jiffy, that's exactly what I was going to mention. Let us be careful when we look back to the passage, because when we look back to the passage for too long, we kind of waste our time rereading the whole thing. So let's try to, like, you know, try to reduce our time in what we're re-looking back at. Another way to reduce your time when you look back at a passage is by annotating. Extremely important. When you underline, you can immediately go back to what you've underlined instead of rereading the passage again, right? Um, if you guys are okay, can I move on to the next passage? Uh, because then we can. This is a kind of a little bit different passage, so we can like try something else. So right, there are different kind of passages: economic, moral, political. So we'll move on to the next passage. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I want you guys to read this part. Okay. I want you guys to read it, and I want you guys to tell me from where it actually becomes important. Okay. Okay. Once you're done, you can let me know. Are you guys done reading it? Okay, sorry. Yeah, you guys are done reading it, right? So the part at which this becomes like actually important is that while this might be plausible at first blush, when we go into the deeper problem, there are all kinds of difficulties. So what they're kind of trying to say here is that though government intervention is important, or though government intervention is plausible, there are inherent difficulties that are underlying this government intervention. Okay. So if a government had to choose, how would this be done, who would choose, etc., etc. Okay. What if there are certain devices which are extremely capable but use a prohibited charger, etc.? See, there are so many problems, right? Again, all these questions here that we can see are again background information to support this larger argument about how that, though government intervention is plausible, it is also this sort of concept with inherent difficulties and you know problems underlying it. Okay. Again, all these questions are just background information, and yeah, then actually the core idea of the passage comes out true. So in this small illustration, we see how government intervention, even in such small problems, rapidly turns into a mess. As we have seen in the simple problem like USB chargers, it is not easy to choose where we want intervention by the state. The first question in the field of public policy is what objectives of public policy are appropriate, blah, blah, blah. Again, questions, questions, questions. Not important, background information. The state is the most powerful actor in society. The state has the capacity to coerce, the capacity to inflict violence upon private persons. Many people get giddy at the prospect of wielding state power and come up with woolly ideas for state intervention. Each of us have a few pet peeves and are quick to propose the use of state power to pursue our own value judgments. Okay, so I'll try and state the main idea of this passage in like a sentence or so. And if you agree with me, you can put a yes. Or if you don't agree with me or you want to add on to something that I might have missed, you can definitely type it out in the comment section. So, according to me, the main idea of the passage is that we see that those state or government intervention is plausible and realistic. It also has inherent underlying difficulties, and we must be careful when we look to government intervention for anything. Do you agree with me, or do you have anything else to add? That's not true at all. Somewhat. Okay. What do you disagree with? The nerd who studies. Tell me what you disagree with. Because there is a catch that I have said at the end of the sentence that one of you must catch. Okay. So when I was telling you guys the main idea, I said something at the end of the sentence. Okay. I said, um, when there must be regulation, or there must be, like, we must be careful. Yeah, we always can't bring the government in for our personal issues. That's also a really important point. Good one, Sahani. Another thing that you guys didn't catch is when I said that we must be careful, and then I said for anything. For anything is so broad, right? Like the word anything itself is so broad. So when you see words like anything, always, never, only, never your option. That's never going to be the right option. But it's vague, right? It needs to be more specific, right, Sohani? Good job, guys. Okay, let's move forward to the answers. Okay, guys, just I think that you guys have a good idea because it's like quite late into your preparation, I'm sure. So if you're okay, I'll be starting, like, I'll just count down from like 20, and then you can put in your answers within like the 20-second countdown so that we can move forward a little faster in the analysis rather than like just waiting, right? Is that okay with you guys? Uh, or would you require more time? You can let me know. Okay. Okay, let's start off. What is the purpose of the passage? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay. A. Good job. Good job. Done. The answer is definitely A, right? To show that one must be circumspect. Circumspect basically means careful when advocating for a government involvement in the sector. That's exactly what the whole idea of the passage is, right? To make the point that regulating different types of charges is not the main idea, only one part of the idea. To advocate for government to refrain from interfering in lives of citizens, too extreme. To refrain from interfering in lives of citizens at all, it's too extreme. And to lay out a policy toolkit to apply, where is he even given as a policy toolkit, right? Like they've only told us that we need to be careful. They're not really giving us like a toolkit on how we need to be careful, right? Next, what lends credence to the author's argument? Credence here basically means strength, okay? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Uh, Shauryan, Gauri, how come you did that, sir? Gauri. Okay. So the right answer here is D. Okay, and I'll elaborate a bit on why. Okay. With First, I'll tell you why the other answers are wrong. So let's do like an elimination method here. Okay. Regulating charger types may not be capable for a country like India with low state capacity, but may be possible in a developed country like America. First thing, that does not strengthen it, because he says that it's not even related about to like actual government regulations, talking about like the abilities of different countries. This is not even his main argument, so it cannot strengthen it. With the boom in tech innovation, there is a rise in the quantity of consumer electronics. Again, this is not really his argument. It is a background information as a part of his argument. So strengthening background information isn't really strengthening the argument itself. Regulating the types of chargers will be convenient for consumers weakens it. If we talk about the fact that regulating chargers are like a good idea, then it starts weakening our argument, right? The answer is D. The answer is D for Delhi, not B. The answer is D for Delhi. Now, why the answer is D for Delhi is interfering in charger use may discourage tech companies to sell their products in India, which harms the end consumer. Very, very true. Because here we see that when he talks about like government intervention, he also talks about the fact that there are some unforeseen effects of these government intervention. And here we can directly see one of the unforeseen effects is discouraging tech companies to sell their products in India. So the answer directly becomes D. Yeah, D is correct. D for Delhi is correct. So when you guys have answered D for this one, you guys had like a reason in mind, right? It's not like something that you just ticked because it like looks good, right? It's D for Delhi. This is not needed. Okay. Last question for this particular passage. Read the 95th question and then put down your answers. How long will the class be? Maybe another 45 minutes or so, because I just need to do the CLAT 2024 after this and then we're done. So here when you see what is the author said in the context of the passage. So look at the broader meaning of this passage. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay. C for China, A. What about the rest? What about Shauryan? What about Gorvi? CAC. Hmm. Being sure. Okay. You guys are right. The answer is in fact C. So the reason why A cannot be the answer here is to further explore the antecedents of a state and to inquire as to how it acquired this power. We're not really like inquiring into how it like acquired this power, right? Here the statement is the state has a capacity to coerce, capacity to inflict violence upon private persons. That's it. Now what are the broader implications of this? Right. In the context of the passage, the broader implications of this particular line would be that the state has so much power that it must be careful in what it decides to regulate. And what is that? That is C option, right? So here the option would be C. We see in a lot of these answers, we see that it relates back to the main argument. Like here, both A and C do seem like very, very enticing options. But the reason why C remains the correct option is because it's more inherently connected to the main argument than A is. Right? The main argument here is the objective of the state need to be pursued with care and regulation needs to be pursued with care. Here, even when they're talking about the immense power of the state, the main argument still stands about how it needs to be careful because of this immense power. So that's why C remains the correct option. When you get like confused like this, try to look for something that is more inherently connected to the main idea rather than something that might be true but is not that connected to the main idea. Okay? We'll do one last small passage and then we'll move on to CLAT 2024. Okay. Okay. So this is more of like a moral passage since we've already done like economic political. Now we'll do moral and then we'll close it up. Okay. So you guys can start reading the passage. You are gonna have a doubt session at the end of this. So I'll be reserving about 15 minutes for that. Can I move forward down? Guys, can I start discussing the passage if you're okay with that? You can just say yes or something like that. Okay. This is a passage about how about social change and the moral implications of social change, right? So here we see that when people are subjected to social change like veganism, which is like a very trivial part of it, but veganism or um, homosexuality, sexual harassment, etc., when they're exposed to something new like that, their moral concerns, we see that they have this like knee jerk defensiveness to it. And here we see that the author says that this knee jerk defensiveness is called the eye roll heuristic, which basically it talks about how that these arguments are mere quibbles that can be safely dismissed. If it's preachy and annoying, it's okay to ignore it, right? So she talks a little bit more about the psychological aspect of this and says that the emotional response that people feel in these situations are not typically produced by psychological processes that are closely tracking argument structures or responding directly to moral reasons. Instead, they stem from psychological mechanisms that enable people to adapt to local norms. That's called a norm psychology. So it can make us resistant to social change even when the change is for the better. So here we have the main idea. Okay, so I'll be talking again, same exercise. I'll tell you the according to me, I'll tell you the main argument in two sentences. And maybe you guys can say yes, no, or add on to it, disagree, anything, right? According to me, the main idea here is that we have this inherent bias against social change because of the psychological mechanism called norm psychology, and we must be able to move past it because sometimes change is for the better. So when change is for the better, it's important for us to look past this norm psychology and adapt to this change. I think that is the main idea. If you guys disagree with me, want to add on, or agree with me, you can say yes, no, or whatever you would like to add on. If you want me to repeat, I can do that too. So just let me know what you guys think. Somewhat, yes. Okay. What would you add on, or what would you remove, or what would you not agree with? Okay. You guys can add on whatever you want to add on. Till then, I think we should move to the next question because I think that it's a really good question because it's like one moral side doesn't have to be preached. No, I don't think that's the main idea because I think that it's more not about instinctive, but it's more about the fact that you must be open to social change. I think okay. It's not always again like Shauryan, your answer would be definitely wrong only because you're making it extreme, but always stupid. You never know that. Okay, moving forward, we will be doing like the answers now. Uh, there are only four questions. So we will be doing every question in like 20 seconds and wrapping it up fast. I think all these questions are really important because they have like really good nuances in them. So let's start off with question 101. I'll give you guys 20 seconds for this question. That's okay, Suhani, don't worry. You look at the answers once, and then if you're able to like put it forward in better words, let me know. But guys, definitely look at the yeah. Definitely look at the question number 101 and let me know what answer you think it is. guys, can you see the question? Okay, I'll be starting the countdown now. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. What about Suhani, Shauryan? Okay, Rashi answered. Gorvi. It shouldn't take you this long to answer this, na? Suhani, Shauryan, D, good. Okay, Shauryan. Let's wait for Shauryan for maybe like 2 more seconds. Okay. You guys are all right. It is D. Okay. Let's look at why these answers, the other ones are wrong, right? In 101A, the answer is clearly wrong because of this. Just seeing this, you can immediately eliminate it. At all. So extreme. Nobody would put an answer that's so extreme. Okay? Next. What is the sorry. Their actions are so ingrained that it would be difficult to desist from them. But that is not what is the response of that person, right? This is like just their inherent psychological mechanism, but it's not their response. There should be some room in a society to indulge in minor transgressions. This is not true. He's not told in any point of the passage that people should be allowed to indulge in minor transgressions and all. The answer is D. You are right. And I'll tell you why. Okay, there's a particular part of the passage which directly points out to the question number 101. Here, okay, it's not that we don't care about right and wrong, but cases like these feel like a far cry from the sort of moral issue that we're inclined to take seriously, like murder and human rights. Here we see that the bar in their actions are inconvenience and nothing in the face of more glaring transgressions like murder and human rights. So yeah, I get that, Suhani. I get that. That's why I said, right, these answers have like nuances to them. And so that's why, we should like be a little more careful when we're reading the answers itself. Okay, question number 102. What is the overarching point of the passage? What is like the main argument here? This is really easy. So I'll give you guys like 15 seconds because it's actually really easy. One, two, we're doing question number 102, by the way. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. C, C, C. Okay, really good job, guys. Really good job. The answer is C. Good job. I won't be explaining this. I'll just do it in like short because I think it's very, very evident. Moral progress typically begins with an agitating set of actions. It might seem annoying initially, but it's necessary to get past and move the needle in a positive direction. Basically, they're talking about how the eye roll heuristic is inherent in us, but we need to make sure that we move past it so there can be positive moral progress. Okay? Okay. If possible, guys, let's do 103 now. Okay, which of the following is suggested by the passage? Okay, be careful. 103. Okay, again, I'll give you like 15 seconds. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay. If you guys are confused, that's not a problem. But okay, I hope you guys have put answers in because I can't see it in the passage for some reason. Okay, Rashi C. Okay, next. Any other something else? D for okay. D or C? Okay, Suhani. Any other answers? Shaurya and D. Nice. Gauravi? Okay, let's go a little bit into the analysis of this. Okay, the answer is actually D. Okay, which of the following is suggested by the passage? The concerns against an animal diet is perceived as preachy annoying, which is different to how it was perceived previously when the concern was directed against sexism and homophobia. This is not true. A option itself is not true, guys. That the idea here is that they're talking about how like the eye roll heuristic was a common like theme between both sexism and homophobia as well as animal based diet, obviously not at the same time, but earlier when the sexism and homophobia diet like conversation started off, there was the inherent eye roll heuristic towards it, and we see the same thing towards veganism now. So we see that there is something common between both of them, so that immediately eliminates option A as well as option C. Is that understood? D and C both get eliminated because the eye roll heuristic is a common element between like animal based diet and sexism and homophobia. And again, B also is not true because people are not aware of the norm psychology. That's why they're not able to react positively, right? That's why we see like people rolling their eyes and being like defensive towards it. So the option here would be D. Okay. So the reason why I did not choose C here is because perceived previously, A gets cancelled. B also gets cancelled because people are not aware of the norm psychology that is inherent in them. And finally, D would be the right option because we've eliminated everything else. Another reason why 103 becomes the right option is here. Okay. The emotional response that people feel in these situations are not typically produced by psychological processes that they stem from psychological mechanisms that enable people to adapt to local norms, right? So here it's not like they're looking at it from a reasoned critical perspective but more from like an emotional standpoint. That's why they're not able to realize their inherent bias itself. Okay. I hope you guys got it. If there are any doubts in this, please let me know now. And finally, the last question, which is like really simple, so I'll give you like 10 seconds. So while you are also answering this, if you have any doubts on the previous 103, please do let me know. So you guys have 10 seconds, which starts now. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. D. What about the rest? Nerd who studies D. Gauravi, Suhani, D. Exactly, right? It's the most glaringly obvious one because he never shows any contempt over anything else. Okay, in A option, he never shows any contempt. In B option, to say the phrase over anything else would be too extreme, right? He's not really choosing change over anything else, right? So that's too extreme. Be cancelled. Looking down on them, he's never really looking down on them. He acknowledges their reasons, but he still says that I understand that there is this like norm psychology prevalent, but you must be cognizant of that and then prioritize social change and move the needle in a positive direction. So here 104D would be the right option. Okay, again a given, right, Sohani? It was like this I think the only complicated one in this passage was the 103 one, because that C and D became confusing, right? Okay. So before we move on to CLAT 2024, the actual paper that was there last year, if you guys have any doubts, I will be waiting for 2 minutes till 7:10. Okay. You can wait, and like in the same way, you can also get a break. So till 7:15, we will take a break for the next about 5 minutes or so, and then I'll come back in like 5 minutes and then clear your doubts before we move on to CLAT 2024. Is that okay with you guys? One more passage. Nerd who studies, there are like four more passages in CLAT 2024 that we'll be solving anyways. So that's okay, right? Okay. Mrityunjay, what are paradoxes? Okay. Paradox is something. What is the best way? How do we best answer how to improve questions? Okay, I'll go one by one. Mrityunjay, paradoxes are basically something that is true while something else is also true. Okay, um, let's look at it this way. Okay, uh, at times you get very irritated with your friend, and but you still love your friend, right? So that's a paradox. You can see like this sort of like tension between two things that are true at the same time. Like you really at that moment you're like, okay, you're like so irritating, but you still really love them, right? That's a paradox. It's two things that are remaining true at the same time. Okay, another paradox would be that the government or a political party guarantees that we will like bring a lot of social development or whatever, but when their term comes about, they don't really do what they have promised. That's another paradox. What they say is not equal to what they do. That's a paradox. The nerd studies, how do we best answer how to improve questions? In what sense? Like how to improve questions, as in like the question type, like how to improve the particular argument. I didn't understand your question. How do we best answer how to improve questions? Okay, guys, we'll take a break for 5 minutes then. Question type. Okay, okay. The question type. How do we best? Okay, so when you look at a particular argument, okay, there is like a very evident, like when you look at a particular passage, a very evident argument. Okay, so in the passage that we've done in the three passages, we were able to very clearly recognize the argument that is present in the passage, right? So the way that to improve the argument is to provide like another reason on why this would be like a really good argument, or this like okay. So an argument inherently has some flaws to it. No argument is perfect. So you need to look at the options and see which option can better this argument. So the way to go about it is step one, find out the argument. Step two, find out the flaws in the argument. And step three, find out a way to better these flaws. And the way to better these flaws is between those four options. Is that understood? So we see step one, identify the argument. Step two, identifies the flaws in the argument. Step three, identify how to better it. I see it usually in CR like something that was intended for a particular thing and ends up doing something completely opposite. Let me know if something is wrong or missing. Uh, I didn't understand your question, sorry, and I'm so sorry. Do you mean like how like authors start off with something and then directly contradict the thing and then move on to their actual argument? Like how we saw in that passage where he like first talks about the good of India, then he says but, or like yet India is this, this. Is that what you're talking about? Like how they start off with good and then go into bad? Okay. So Hani, what are your top three or how many advices to do that you suggest you to do? So I think we have. Okay. Honestly, everybody is different. Okay, but the top advice that I would give anyone at this point in time. Okay, The top advice I would give anyone at this point in time is please do not compare yourself to anyone else. The actual day of the exam is the only thing that matters, and however good anybody is doing in any mock before the actual exam does not matter as much as the actual exam. So do not compare yourself to anyone else. Everybody is different, and everybody has their own process. So do not compare yourself to anyone else. That's how you see paradoxes. Okay, no, it's something different. Okay, paradox is something that like two things are true at the same time. So paradox question type usually have like options which are like this is happening and this is happening, and like they'll give you like a reason on why, right? Like it's like resolve the paradox kind of question types, right? They'll be like this happens, this happens, this is a paradox. Like you have to see like two things can be a paradox only if they contradict each other. Two things that are similar can never be paradoxes. Okay, wait 1 second. Let me look for like a paradox question type here. Yeah, I got a bit too specific, but you understood, right? It's something that contradicts itself. Like, it's like, okay, I'll give you an example, okay? Like, if I say that, if a politician says that, I really believe in development and then doesn't really work towards development, that's a paradox because he says something and doesn't do it. And if, like, you say that, I love dogs, but then you continue to beat dogs, then you're not really a dog lover because you say something but you don't do it like that. Okay, advice things to do that follow them unquestionable. At this point, you need to be writing at least 2 mocks a week. That's like a bare minimum. Writing 2 mocks a week is like a bare minimum because at this point, like the only way you're gonna like get better is by practice. So writing mocks is extremely pivotal at this point. And sectionals. Whichever section you're weak in, you need to write a lot of sectionals in that. Okay, guys, are you okay if we start off with Mrityunjay? I'll cover flaws in like a few minutes. Um, uh, are you okay if I cover that at the end, Mrityunjay? Also, guys, can we start off with CLAT 2024 paper? If you guys are okay, you can just say yes in the comment section so we can start off. I'm so sorry, I just went to get a charger. Okay, we'll be starting off with the CLAT 2024 paper now. I'll be sharing my screen. I would like really appreciate it if you guys tell me if you can see it or not. Um, okay, can you guys see it? Okay, awesome. Let's start. Okay, this is the CLAT 2024 paper, which has like the legacy of being like a little bit of a different. I will zoom in 1 second, which has legacy of being like a little bit of a different paper because they asked questions that really weren't like normal question types. So let us like explore it a bit. Yeah. Mm, okay. This is a very short passage, so we'll try to cover it as fast as possible. Yeah. Words remain an enigma. Their presence within the human sphere is a unique mystery. They form the intricate tapestry that convinces of us our existence, blurring lines between fact and fiction. And engagement with words is the most captivating, enchanting, and sometimes daunting encounter with the world. A word, a symbolic entity formed from the ethereal, exists neither as animate nor inanimate, yet pulsates with life. It can emanate warmth or coldness, absorb emotions, or stand dry as a rock. Words can provoke smiles and elicit joy. They are like glowworms, momentarily dispelling the surrounding darkness and act as life saving rafts amid the tumultuous ocean waves. Words grant us the ability to explore the universe and to see the world in a grain of sand, as William Blake noted. They impart a semantic existence to the lifeless and bestow aesthetic form upon the formless. Scriptures say the word is the world. I say the word within the word is the abode of faith. So basically, when we're exploring this passage, we see that this is a very like deep passage. It's not that whatever is written is just the truth. It's like something that is like very deep, and we need to really read between the lines to understand what's given. It's almost like poetry, right? This passage is more like poetry than actually like a given passage. Like if you see economic or political passages, they become very like, okay, you can see the facts and you can relate to a conclusion based on these facts, but this becomes such a deep passage that you need to like really read between the lines to understand what the main idea here would be. The nerd who studies, how was the paper like for you when you wrote it? It was, the CR section was something that I really did not expect. This passage was still okay for me, but when the most difficult passage we'll be doing at the end, because it was actually extremely complicated and was something that we never, neither any of us had ever seen before. Okay, let's start off. Um, what is the central theme of the passage? If you guys can like put down your answers in the chat box, that we really appreciate it. Yeah. So again, same rule follows. 15 seconds. Read the passage again if you need to, and you can answer it. What is the central theme of the passage? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, and 10. Yeah. Uh, Sorry. Sorry, guys, 1 second. Sorry. Yeah. The answer is actually the impact of words on human existence. Okay. Now, I'll tell you why this is the right answer. Okay. Let's try like an elimination method here. What is the central theme of the passage? An important point when you look at central themes is that it needs to be something that is pervasive and covers everything. It cannot be something that covers only one part of it, because that is not the central theme of the passage. It becomes only the central theme of that line. So, the importance of the history of human language, it's they're really not talking about the way the human language is developed, but instead they're talking about how the human language has affected us. The importance of storytelling, just that's immediately no, because I've not really mentioned storytelling anywhere. And the mystery of human cognition, again, they've really not mentioned the mystery of human cognition anywhere. And the only place where they've actually mentioned like mystery is their presence, the presence of words, not really the presence of human cognition or the understanding of words. So here we see that 86, the right answer for 85 would be B, the impact of words in human existence, because that is the central theme. The broader implications of these words on how we see life. If you guys are clear on that, we can move forward. Okay. Question number 86. Yeah. Um, there's this particular line that I will be trying to highlight, which makes it easier. So just read the line once, then we'll move forward. Okay. Okay, let's go to question number 86. According to the passage, what does the word symbolize? Answer is D. Yeah, you're right. The answer is D. Like, it's very clear. It's like too descriptive. The answer has to be D, right? I won't really be explaining this because it's very obvious. It's not inanimate because it just says it. It's not animate because again it just says it, and it's not tangible because again it just says it. Okay. Next one is question number 87. How does the passage describe words' ability to affect emotions? Okay. B. Yeah, exactly. It's very obvious, right? Words can only evoke positive emotion. Obviously, not true. Again, extreme, not true. Word can Words have no impact on emotions. Again, not true. Because clearly, given that it can have a positive emotion, so C is also eliminated. Words can be devoid of emotions. Again, same thing as C. Not possible. Answer is B. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Okay, question number 88. D. Okay, any other answers? D. Exactly. The right answer is D. Words can paint a picture of the world in all its different colors. See, A is not true because it cannot be used. Nobody's even talking about manipulation here. So it becomes like something that's outside the passage, which we have clearly mentioned at the start of the session that it's not the correct answer. Something that's outside the passage can never be the correct answer. The power of words should be used carefully. See, this is a very interesting option. But again, it becomes very like a gray area, right? Because they're not really talking about the power of words being used carefully. And they're really not even talking about the power of words here. Words can capture the atrocities of the world. Again, they're only talking about one part of the whole sentence, right? They all because here they also say that words are captivating, etc., and enchanting. But here they're only talking about the bad part, so it cannot be C. So the answer here is D. Okay. Question number 89. This is also like a deeper answer. So don't look at it very black and white, but look at it from a deep perspective and how you have to read between the lines and not something that's just straightforward. Okay. Question number 89, 10 seconds. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, and 10. Rashi, Gauravi, I didn't really get your answers, so I think I'll wait for another 2 more seconds. Rashi, Gauravi, Shauryan answered, I think. Shauryan answered. Who else is left? But I'd go with B. Okay, and be a little confusing. True. Okay, so the answer here is actually A. Okay, let me explain why. Which of the following strengthens the author's idea of words being like glowworms, momentarily dispelling the surrounding darkness? Okay. Here, we see that this whole paragraph is extremely deep in its meaning, right? It's not something that you just read and understand, but it's something you need to read in between the lines for. Like when you look at a poem, you don't really look at the poem as just the poem itself, but you look at the what it means broadly, right? So here we see that let's just start eliminating, right? Words cast darkness in the mind of the reader. Obviously cannot be true because we're talking about like light here, so D is not the right option. Question number C. Sorry, option number C. Words help in escaping reality. Again, words don't really help in escaping anything. Here we're not even talking about the idea of escaping anywhere. So C doesn't really come into the question. Now here it has to be between A and B. Words illuminate the mind of the reader. This seems like a very enticing option, but here again, it's too direct because the passage here refers to something that's much more deeper and much more like, morally like heavy. It has to be A because when we see here words help in understanding reality in the context of the larger passage, we see that words help in dispelling the surrounding darkness, right? They are like glowworms. So here we see that help basically words help us to identify between true and untrue, and yeah, like identifying what's real and what's false. So here A has to be the right option because B is too direct. Like glowworm, so it eliminates. It cannot be that. It has to be something much deeper because the passage is much deeper. So this is an important, very important question because we need to answer questions based on what the passage demands, not just based on what the answers are directly. Okay. If you guys have understood 89, please just put like yes or something in the comment section because otherwise I'm really open to explaining it again because I did get this answer wrong in my CLAT itself. So if you have got it, if you've understood it, please put down a yes. If you've not understood it, you can put down a no and I'm open to explaining again. Yeah, minus 0.25. Okay, guys, question number 90. You just answer in like 10 seconds because it's too easy. This is a really easy one. Um, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. Okay, I got one answer. I think the rest are still like coming through. So I'll wait for like another 5 seconds. Okay, but yeah, the answer is A because it's so simple and so direct, it has to be A, right? Because it refers to the power of light. Everything else is just like not even related or it's too vague. So the answer is A. Okay. Guys, let's read up the second passage now. Can you read it? Is it visible? Is it visible? Okay, You can start reading it, I think so. There are only like two more after this, so we can like wrap it up fast. Yeah, same. It is tempting. No, option C is tempting in 90. I'm gonna try and switch to a different tab where I have like kind of underlined a few of these. So yeah. Okay, maybe this will help a bit. Is life at NLS hectic? A little bit. I mean, you get used to it, I think so. Why is it not erasing? Huh. Okay. Just the last part left, guys. And then we can go on to questions. Okay, guys. We'll now move on to identifying what the idea or the main argument here is, right? So the main argument here is basically about how. So first, the author talks about chip design and how India kind of missed their turn at chip design and how they were like a little bit back in the line when it came to chip design, and so they weren't able to get the required benefits from it. And then he talks about how it's very important that India, in the role that it's going to play, it is very important for India in AI to play a leading role in generative AI to get its required benefits. And it also talks about the importance of like um, the indigenous generative AI aspect of it and not really just taking in from other countries. And finally, it talks about how the government of India alone cannot push it, but also it requires like significant work from all the different sectors of, you know, the government, and like requires help from like the judiciary, executive, legislature, etc. It's like a very collaborative effort to put this or to put India at the position it requires to be in respect to generative AI. So the main idea in one sentence here, again, same exercise. If you agree, say yes. If you don't agree, say no. Generative, for India to reap the benefits it requires from generative AI, it needs to make sure it is at the forefront. It needs to make sure that it is collaborative, and it needs to make sure that it like inculcates indigenous models rather than importing from other countries. This is the main argument as I have identified. If you guys think that there is something else, you please let me know. And the conclusion obviously here would be, let India lead the, you know, generative AI aspect of it rather than being led. Okay. um let's move on to question number 91. It's very very simple, so I'll be giving you like 10 seconds to solve it, and once you're done, And the government should be at the forefront of it. Exactly, Shaurya. Yeah. So like that's basically the main idea of it. So if you're okay, we can like start with 91. I'll give you 10 seconds because it's super simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. What about Shaurya and Rashi and all? Exactly. The answer is, in fact, D. So A cannot be the right option because the best way to deal with it's completely opposite to what the author has stated, which where he like advocates for government regulation. B, government driven, again, completely opposite, cannot be true. Private companies with their large capital design the most efficient, not true. Again, they talk about indigenous production, so cannot be true. C cannot be true. Obviously D becomes the right option through elimination. Red tapeism is basically, it becomes inefficient because there are a lot of procedures that the government needs to follow, and there are a lot of like there's a very specific way of doing things which makes leads to inefficiency and delays. D is the right option. Yeah. Okay, question number 92, again like 10 seconds. Okay, which of the following, if true, would most strengthen the main argument? Again, here we see most strengthen. So try to identify the one which is the strongest. Okay, again, like 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, Shauryansh. So in 91, the D isn't really a specific part, but it's like prevalent in the whole passage. Okay. Sorry, guys. The answer is A actually. Um, so in option number B, governments that don't engage, they don't have nothing to lose, but in fact they have a lot to lose. They have a lot of profits to lose. So B cannot be the right answer. Governments that actively incentivize MNCs, blah blah blah. Again, not true at all. They're advocating for indigenous models, so C cannot be the right answer. D, private partnership models. It is an enticing answer because like the idea of balance comes into play, but here no, it's not the right answer because they don't really talk about private players, being an active part of the market. So A is the right option. Okay, guys, let's move on to 93. If you guys have any other doubts, you can put it down in the comment section. Question number 93, another 15 seconds. It's very, very simple. So 93 should be like a complete piece of cake for you guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. I'll wait for like 2 more seconds for, I think, Nerd who studies to answer, and then we'll move forward. Okay. So here the answer is A actually, not C, because the basic idea why the answer is A, because it's so like direct and to the point, then it has to be A, right? Court should take initiative by being innovative and laying down rules where no precedents exist. That's it. That's directly what the statement says. So the answer is A. B cannot be right because obviously it's completely opposite. It's cancelled. Precedents are the best possible way. Again, too extreme. Uh, and so the answer is A. C, again, it cannot be on the basis of judicial wisdom because the idea of judicial wisdom itself is so like subjective. So it can't be judicial wisdom. It has to be A. Okay. Now question number 94. Again, 10 seconds. This is also very, very simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Yeah. So in 94, the right option here is C. That's very true. It's a collaborative effort, as we have established before. The author clearly states that here it's not the responsibility of like the GOI alone, but instead it requires collaboration from all state machinery to make sure that it requires, or it like reaches the level it can. Okay, question number 95. Based on the author's arguments, which of the following would result in weakening rather than strengthening India's position at the forefront of generative AI? Okay, an important question, an important point before you go into this. Remember that generative AI and chip design are different. India already missed the bus in chip design. Okay, remember that before you answer. Also, generative models like Wu-Dao are not indigenous models, they're imported models. So I've given you guys a lot of hints, so I think it's easy for you guys to answer now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay. So the right option here is C, which of the following would result in weakening rather than strengthening. Here, introducing generative models like Wu Dao, which are in fact imported models rather than indigenous models, will definitely result in weakening the author's argument about indigenous models. So the answer here is C, and everything else, would, if not strengthen, at least be neutral towards it. Okay, question number 96. The author states that missing this bus will after all be even more costly than missing the chip research one. For this statement to be true, which of the following statements about chip research must the author most likely agree with? Remember that chip is already over. Okay, India missed the bus in chip design. So keeping that in mind, think of the answers. Which of the statements the author most likely to agree with? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. So the right answer here is C. Sorry, and you're right. A cannot be the right answer because India led the chip. It did not lead it. It actually missed the bus. So A cannot be true because it's contradictory to the facts that he's provided, right? So the answer is C. India should have proactively played a role in responding to new research. That is the right option. Now, here D also seems like an enticing option but cannot be true because they're not really comparing the losses, right? They're just talking about those losses individually, and he's talking about how they've how they missed the bus on the chip design one, they should have missed it on generative AI one. So A is not true because it's contradictory to the facts, because India did not lead the chip design front, and C is right because he said that India should have read it in a very normative way. Okay, let's do this passage a little fast because it's super simple. Okay. It's 9:48 now. You should be used to like reading a little fast. So at 9:51 we will start discussing we'll start moving towards the answers. So you have 3 minutes to read the passage. Oh, okay, okay. I get that, Sharon. I get why it would be confusing if you thought about it like that. That's fair enough. Yeah, exactly. You don't need to assume so much in the answers. If you assume so much, then you're causing yourself a lot of trouble. Okay, guys, let's begin. Let's go on to question number 103. Okay, I saved the second last passage for the end because it's the most important according to me. 103. Okay, as per the author, which one of the following is not likely leading to suicide among students? This is a very tricky one. So I'll give you guys like 20 seconds. Try and answer it within that time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Okay, so here the right option is actually A. Okay, and I'll tell you why now. Okay, so this is question number 103, right? Oh, sorry. The answer is D here. Okay. Okay. Sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. The answer here is D. Okay. Shauryansh, you're right. The answer is D. So basically, here, um, incorrect marketing strategies are seen as a direct result, but living in a surrounding with different background and culture are seen as challenges, but not seen as like a direct cause of the suicide. So the answer here is D. C is also true because like they talk about coaching institutes here a lot. Okay. 104. Let's do this fast. 104 is super simple, so I'll give you guys like 10 seconds. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, can you put down your answers, please? Shauryan, yeah. Sorry, I'm so sorry. B, you're right. This is very simple. The answer is B because it's directly given. Merit of the students is not the determining factor. It's becoming like a huge drawback in the education sector. So here, answer is B. Okay, 105. Which of the following strengthens the argument regarding the idea of merit as per the above mentioned passage? So basically, the passage talks about how merit cannot be seen as black and white, and there are many aspects contributing to merit. And also, they talk about the role of coaching institutes and how they're contributing to this sense of like stress and anxiety, etc. So 105 also very simple, very simple at 105. So we'll start off. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10. Exactly. Answer is A. Like that's the most like obvious, straightforward answer. The answer is A because true merit is multifaceted and goes beyond like a single competitive exam. Okay, next 106. Again, uh 10 seconds because it's so easy. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, put down your answers, please. 106. B. Hmm. Okay, Shauryan. 106B. Okay. So here in 106, the answer is actually D. Which one of the following is correct? There are existing inequalities which are enlarged by competitive exams. So here the author's main argument is that there are very much existing persisting inequalities in the system itself, and the way that competitive exams measure merit is not really an effective way because it doesn't really take into account these inequalities which results in their enlargement. So the answer is D. There are existing inequalities which are enlarged by competitive exams. Okay, 107. Which of the following statement reflects the use of online platforms for education as per the author? Okay, let's go back to the part where he's talked about. Let's go back to the part where he's talked about like like technical use once. Technology appears as a potential equalizer in this landscape. Online platforms now offer preparation opportunities from the comfort of one's home. Government curated or market driven content could usher in a new era of accessibility. So 107, what do you think the answer is? Super simple, 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, Divyanka and Shaurya, what are your answers? 107. 107, guys, put down your answers. Divyanka and Shauryan, it's very simple. A, very true. It is A. It provides equal opportunity to all students irrespective of caste or creed. Right? Here, right here, in like technology emerges as a potential equalizer in this landscape. Very true. Okay, now last one, 108. Which of the following is not a challenge for quality education? 108. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Which of the following is not a challenge? Guys, read it. Which of the following is not a challenge for quality education? Okay. So the answer here is actually D, lack of competitive atmosphere among the peers. Read the question very carefully. Which one of the following is not a challenge for quality education? Here, they've not even talked about lack of competitive atmosphere. This is clearly not a challenge because it's not even mentioned in the passage. So the option here is actually D and not C. Okay? Because here, is it understood why it's D and not C? If you have understood, please let me know. Otherwise, I can clear it out once again for you guys. Online resources are not are not a challenge. They help, yeah. They're not a challenge. Exactly, they're an aid. Which of the following is not a challenge? The availability of online resources, it is a challenge because see here. I'll go back. Availability now offer. See, technology emerges a potential equalizer. Only if they actually make these online resources available, it will become a challenge. Okay. See, availability of online resources. Okay, we are not really sure if they have the availability. Online resources are an aid, but here we do not know if they're available. Here, D, lack of competitive atmosphere, it's not even mentioned in the past, so it cannot be a challenge. Is that clear, Shorin and Devanka? Availability is different from online resources itself. Availability means every single student who requires online education has the availability of it, which is definitely still a challenge. Here, the actual thing that's not a challenge is lack of competitive atmosphere because I've not mentioned that, right? If it's not clear, please let me know. Okay, let's move forward now. Um, so there's one passage left of CLAT 2024, which I will be covering in like, I think, another CR session because the time is up for the marathon, 2 hours. If you guys have any doubts, now would be a great time for you to ask it because in another 10 minutes we'll be wrapping up. So if you guys have any doubts, please let me know. Yeah, I get that. I get that. It's very easy to get distracted. So, like, read the question properly, see how it's related to the passage in itself. So, like, just let's remember the ground rules again, right? Do not choose an extreme option. Do not choose an answer that provides information not given in the passage. Here we see that this D option is something that's not provided in the passage. So, how can it even be true, right? And then next thing is do not choose answer that is untrue. Do not choose answer that is too vague, and do not assume anything based on personal knowledge. Okay. If you guys have any doubts, I will be on here for another 7 minutes. So if you guys have any doubts, please do let me know in the next 7 minutes. The last CLAT 2024 CR passage we'll be covering in another session. Okay, I lack in weakening questions. What can I do to improve that? Okay, weakening and strengthening questions have three simple steps. Step number one, identify the argument. Make sure that you know very, very clearly what the argument is. Without knowing what the argument is, there is no way for you to possibly strengthen it or weaken it. Okay? That's step number one. Step number two, once you identify what the argument is, find out the option that directly contradicts it. Okay? If I say that India has India has a lot. India has unity in diversity. Okay, I say that. That's my argument. My argument is that India has unity in diversity. But if you come ahead and tell me that no, India actually does not, India might have diversity, but it does not have unity, because there are inherent differences in between religions and ethnicities, that directly contradicts my point and weakens it, because the point of me saying that India has unity in diversity completely gets cut off when you say that it does not have unity in diversity because of these reasons. So it immediately gets cut off. So it's immediately weakened, right? So that's how you go about weakening. Step number one, most important step, identify the argument. Step number two, identify what will directly hit the argument at its knees. Is that clear, Divyanka? These two steps to solving, strengthening, and weakening. Okay. Sure, Yan. Yeah, my problem is that I'm taking too much time, like 30 minutes from the past 6, 7 marks. I'm regressing a lot. Okay. So, a way to reduce your time in CR, which I actually thought was very, very, useful for me, was that when I'm reading a passage, I start annotating it. So, when I have to refer back to the passage, I don't have to reread the whole passage, but I just have to reread that part of the passage. Or you read the questions first and then go to the passage and start annotating, so you know which part of the passage are important and which one you can just skip past. That's way you can really cut down on your time. Two methods: either you just read the passage and annotate, or second one, you read the questions and then read the passage and annotate. Easy, easy, easy. The time will really get cut short. No, I get that, Choryan, because also towards the end, coaching institutes start releasing harder mocks for very specific reasons that you're well prepared for the paper. No, I get what you say. Like, it's really difficult to find the main argument and conclusion, right? So it's very important for now to start annotating. I think next week I'll be having another session of like an hour or so where I'll finish up the last passage of CLAT 2024 CR, and I will also talk a little bit about like cutting down your time in LR, and also a little bit more about like identifying main argument and conclusion, because almost all the answers surround around identifying main argument and conclusion. So I think next week I'm gonna have like a very short hour session on it, not a marathon. So yeah. Are there any other questions? Because I will be ending the call soon. Yeah, I get that. The game is the option. So, like, try using the elimination method that we used today. Try using, like, identifying the argument. Try identifying the argument. That actually helps in almost every question to do it fast. It is a direct opposite of the argument given in the passage. So, is that valid or not? See, it needs to be an argument that's not factually inaccurate. If an argument is given that's factually inaccurate, how can it weaken? Right? Can you also take a class on how we should annotate? Yeah, for sure. Next week in the hour class, and I'm talking about like cutting short your time, and definitely also show you how guys how to annotate. Like if you see here, I have also annotated here. Like see, you can see like where I've underlined or where I've circled and stuff like that, right? Like here and all. This is very bad, but like see, your annotation should be only for you. Your annotation is only for you, not for anyone else. Annotate in a way that you can understand very well. Okay, so maybe next week in that hour I'll cover these two things like annotation, the last passage of this CR, and also argument and conclusion, so we can wrap up these three concepts so you can like completely be strong in your LR. Like today we completed inference, we completed strengthening weakening, we completed what is assumptions we completed, so it'll be okay. That's okay, Shaurya, and that's what I said, right? Like, coaching institutes have now started releasing like harder mocks, so that's why like you feel like your scores are dipping, but don't worry, like it will be okay, and don't compare yourself to others. It will genuinely be okay. Okay, guys, this is the end of this session. I hope you guys liked it, and I hope that it helped you guys somehow. I get that CLAT 2025 is quite close and it might be daunting, but keep consistent, keep working, and everything will be okay, guys. So don't worry too much. Yeah. So that's the end of today's session. Next session I'll also be coming on. So if you have any other doubts, you can definitely let me know at that point. Yeah. Have a good night, guys. Best of luck.